Have you driven a Ford lately?
This is the new Ford Mustang GT. With its unmistakably new body surrounding an equally dramatic 5-liter port fuel-injected engine, it's easy to pick out the Mustang GT from a crowd. Not that it's likely to be in one. This is the new Mustang GT.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Welcome back to the channel, people. Now, oh god, I hate this time of year. Anyway, let's get on with this one. Welcome back, like I said, to the channel. Thank you for coming back to KK and EV. This one is all about the Ford Motor Company. Wow, where do I start with this? What is becoming a shambles? In my very early days of motoring, at 16, even 15 illegally, I had my very first car, and it wasn't a Ford. It was a very, very cheap Vauxhall Viva HA, if anyone knows what they are. And also then straight after that, I had a Ford Corsair. Now, neither of these cars were road legal. Probably no MOT, I had no insurance, but hey, at 16 years of age, it was great to get out there and have a road round, you know, and get... Anyway, that's by the by. You wouldn't get away with that now. Things have changed dramatically. I am going back, wow, when I did that 50 years ago. So, you know, don't slap me. 50 years ago. I then progressed onwards and became Mustang man, with the Ford Mustang being what I considered the ultimate car to own outside of supercars. And here in England, and you Americans may well laugh at me saying this, but if you drove an American car, especially with the V8 Burble sound back when you were 17, 18, here in England, you were totally different from anybody else. You were looked upon and frowned upon. And wow, you know, what are you doing this for? Because at that age, when I first had my very first Mustang, at 18 going 19, I think I was at the time, I will flash a few photos up so you know, so you get the feeling behind this and with me and Ford, because if you don't, you won't know where the heart of this is coming from. But yeah, my first one was an orange with white vinyl roof, 6-pot Mustang. I've said it before on the channel. I'll put a picture of it up. Yeah, it's that one there. You can see it is what it is. It was a 6-cylinder, cost me a fortune to put right and everything else. And I only drove it a few thousand miles because it just kept breaking down on me. Now, I stayed with Ford knowing that Ford was the thing I wanted to do. I went to a European Ford Granada, which I swapped for the Mustang, and it didn't kind of suit me. And I thought, what have I done this for? I'm doing something wrong here. And so I came back and come back into the American car scene. Let's roll it on a few years, because I don't want to bore you with the cars I had in the day, apart from one which was another Ford, which was this one. Yeah, I think I have shown this before on the channel, and I'm not doing this for nostalgia because I ain't into it in a big way. I'm doing it just to prove that I've had these cars in the past. This was a Ford Capri GT XLR. Didn't spend a great deal on this, but did have the prop shaft slightly reduced, I believe, if I remember rightly, and we put a 5-speed Granada gearbox in that thing just to make it better. And it did make it better. Anyway, moving on. So I then got back into the American car scene in a big way, and I imported my first Ford Mustang from the USA in Florida in Gainesville. Yep, this one here. Again, been seen on the channel, but if you're new to the channel, you wouldn't know. This was a 1988 5-litre GT Mustang, and when that eventually came across the UK and I paid all my duties on it and everything else, and took it out, and it was a 5-speed manual, and you started using it around my hometown here of Loughborough, there wasn't a great deal that could keep up with that and spin wheels and burn rubber like it did at every T-junction if you wanted it to. You had to have something like a Cosworth to be able to keep up with the performance of that 5-litre GT Mustang. Again, as time went on, I had a few GM American cars and Buicks and some family type American cars, and I've got loads to show you, but I'm not going to bore you with them all because I know that people who watch this are into electric vehicles more so than my good old history when it comes to ICE cars. So if you're watching this now and you're thinking KK with his EVs knows nothing about ICE cars, shh, because I probably know a lot more than you. So we'll move back on. Ford. Why have they done this to me? I have been waiting for Ford to come out since I made the transition over to electric, which was 5 years ago. And again, there's videos on here that can prove that. Just spin through the channel, folks. You'll see lots and lots to watch. I wanted, and I've been needing, that Ford Touch again to see if I still love them as much as I did when I was a lot younger, in my 20s, 30s. And hold on, before I go on, my last one was this one. And again, I've mentioned this as well on a lot of my posts. This was the very last Mustang I had and the last Ford I owned 5 years ago. It was a 2015 5-litre GT Mustang. I put about 10,000 miles on that before I sold it, and then moved on to the EVs where I am now. Anyway, I digress. So, you know, I've been there with Fords, okay? That's made that clear. So, I hope you enjoyed that bit of nostalgia about Ford and me, and I just feel that Ford have lost their way. Now, this is happening all over the motor industry. Toyota are feeling the kick up the backside for not going into EVs a bit quicker now, etc., etc. So I'm going to partly blame the transition to electric vehicles for what's happened to Ford, but I'm also going to blame the fact that Ford have just not been quick enough, and in my eyes been very, very idle with their approach to electric vehicles in general. Now, we could split Ford up because they are worldwide, so you could go Ford Europe, you could go Ford USA, and even Ford UK as 3 different divisions, and they kind of are to a point, because they don't have the same cars in the same countries, especially the USA in comparison to as Europeans, as my American watchers will know.
There's no one way to power up, as long as Ford is your starting line. Because more important than the power you choose is what you choose to do with it. Gas, hybrid, or all electric, the power is yours.
What we have to do when we're looking at this problem, and it is a massive problem for Ford, because if they don't do some dramatic changes with the big China push coming up behind their bums, they could have some serious financial problems. When the EV transition started, and I'm going to go back even 10 years ago, the big legacy manufacturers laughed it off, saying, don't want to get involved, ain't going to happen, we don't need all this electric rubbish, we're just going to carry on with fossil fuels. Well, since then, there's been as you well know, a big kick up the backside for climate change, and that's affected the way certain people, including myself, look at car ownership. I think that the EV transition has not helped anybody when it comes to manufacturing cars. The people who didn't do anything are the people now who are suffering, and that includes the Ford Motor Company here in the UK, USA, and in Europe. Well, what have they done? What have they actually, what can you say that's been outstanding from Ford in the last 10 years? Does it interest me to buy a UK Ford? No, not at all. I'll tell you why. One, I'm into the electric cars now. EVs are my driving, motoring style, no longer fossil fuel. So what have I got to pick from that Ford offers? Okay, I'm not going to say the Mackie at this moment. That's we'll leave that at the back in my brain somewhere. Let's go for what else is available electric wise from Ford. There are a couple of PHEVs, a couple of hybrids, whatever you want to call them, and to me they are not electric cars, so I completely outlaw them. Big cross, no, not interested. I like full electric cars, BEVs, you know, battery electric vehicles, no engine in them whatsoever. So what have I got to pick from? Volkswagens. Yeah. To people who are not heavily into cars, you probably won't realise that the last two new so-called Ford cars are Volkswagens. Volkswagen chassis, Volkswagen battery packs, Volkswagen this, Volkswagen that, everything else. And then Ford just put a body on top and a bit of extra software, put an oval badge on it, boom, sell it as a Ford. So very, very disappointed in Ford's lazy outlook to their electric European stroke UK section at the moment, selection should I say, because they're Volkswagens, the Explorer, the Capri, which I don't mind the name of, by the way. The Ford Capri and the Ford Explorer. They are Volkswagens in disguise. Ford have been very, very super lazy by not coming out with their own designs, their own way. Well, they've designed a body to go on a Volkswagen chassis, basically, because that's how simplistic EVs are. You know, that's one good thing about them. You can just take a platform and put your own body shell on them. I don't see them as Fords. I just see them as Volkswagens with Ford bodies on top. So super lazy. Very, very disappointed with Ford Europe stroke UK. Now, so what else is available? I'm going back to the Mach-E. We have it in Europe and it sells reasonably well. There's quite a few used Mach-E's which are good value at the moment. Now, have I ever looked at them and thought, shall I have one to get back into Ford? Yes, I have. I have actually looked at the Mach-E. I did ponder on a used GT version, but I've looked at it and thought, no, I'm not going to, because believe it or not, even with the Mach-E now, there are slightly better electric vehicles either side of it, you know? So I'm pulled back and forward on wanting one of these Ford Mach-E's, but yes, they are in my back of my mind all the time, shall I, shan't I? So what else is available if I don't have the Mach-E? Well, zero, nothing, nada. Come on Ford, get your act together, you know, do it correctly. Their offerings are super mediocre in comparison to others you can get for less price, more range, quicker charging speeds, and they're all genuine cars. If they're badged as a Toyota, they're a Toyota. They're not a Volkswagen underneath. Ford USA. I think the Americans have been very lucky to get a full electric pickup truck at this stage with a Ford badge on it, which is a lovely thing. And also you've got the Mach-E. So I think you've done all right in the US when it comes to electric Fords, because you've got two very good ones, although you don't treat them as good EVs. You don't see them as good EVs.
The all-electric 2024 Ford F-150 Lightning truck. No matter where you're off to, get there with an EPA-estimated 320 miles of all-electric range. A spacious trunk, so you can bring more than just the essentials. And go 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds with the extended range battery. The Ford F-150 Lightning, the only EV that's an F-150.
But let's face it, the average American doesn't want a pickup truck until it does 600-mile range, has 600 brake horsepower, you can tow a 20-ton trailer with it, etc., etc.
Introducing the new 2024 Ford F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Well, let's face it, folks, and I'm not having a go, but the majority around, I think the last figures I read, I think it's about 76% of all pickup trucks ever bought in the US will never tow a thing. And I think it's about 82% will never ever go off and do serious off-roading. So why do you want them? So yeah, Ford USA. I don't know what's coming up in the States next. Some people have said to me, you're a Mustang man, you have been for years as I've shown you. Why didn't they get the coupe Mustang and turn that into a full electric? Well, yes, I do question that now sometimes. If they're going to keep that, and I think Ford might be dropping it in 2027 completely, but they might change their minds. But could they make that full electric? Yeah, of course they could. Of course they could. And that might be a good thing. Now, if they could make that with 300-mile range, with the same concept it's got now, and sell it as a GT, etc., yeah, that would probably sell in America. And that will probably give electric vehicles a bit of a boost. It would even boost Ford. Would it sell in the UK? Probably, because there is no two-door electric coupe available in a big way, around the world really, from any big major legacy player. So yeah, there you go, Ford. Do it. Well, we've come to that time where I say thank you for watching. To summarise, I'm going to say this. Ford is not the company that it was 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. Definitely not. So Jim Farley, you need to kick up the backside. And if you ever see this, I've lost kind of all faith. If you can prove me different, show me something you've got going, invite me across to your headquarters in the USA and show me the future, because I'd love to see it. I just don't think you'll be around in the next 10 years. I really don't. Unless, of course, you get involved with a Chinese company. Because I know you like those Chinese cars, don't you, Jim? Them Xiaomis or whatever they're called. The phone company that does them. Begins with X. Hope you enjoyed the nostalgia at the beginning as well. I'm not heavily into nostalgia, but I had to show you that first 4, 5, 6 minutes of my old cars to get you into the same headspace that I was in about the company. So I'll see you all in the new year. So Merry Christmas, I know I'm early, and a Happy New Year to all of my subscribers and watchers. And like I say, if you've not subscribed, it's free! Get a free gift for Christmas and subscribe to KK and EV. We'll see you later.